going to discuss cultural metamorphosis that is already unfolding from a world of deadlines and dying species to a bright new normal of lifelines and living wealth. His new book, The New Normal, predicts that in the emerging era, production and consumption will no longer be the defining characteristics of our civilization. Rather, cultural richness, efficiency, ecological design, and biological restoration will be, and that'll be the new normal. Right? Well, welcome, David. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Philip, and I'm delighted to be here. I've been here before, and it always feels good to be around people who are like-minded and who are energetic and are creating this new normal that I talk about. Another slogan I have is that we need to move into health and wellness from wealth and wellness. Let's face it, at the very core of our way of life is that everything's fine and it makes money. And I'm challenging that. I want to move from surviving to thriving, from the idea that we should destroy nature and make money, to restore nature and save money. There is all kinds of money to be saved in things like the $50 billion that we spend on highways. Let's move to light rail and use the highways less. Lawns, $30 billion. Advertising, $250 billion. $900 a head. We're paying these people to blather at us. Diabetes, obesity, $120 billion apiece. Misdirected subsidies, $250 billion. Military, $750 billion. We know that it goes on, and I really think that the redistribution of value is where we can begin to really get a handle on the U.S. being the kind of place that we want it to be. I want to start out with a song that I sing routinely at presentations, and I'm not going to stop. I'll make the threat that I'm not going to stop until we start to have a new American dream. It's a song written by Peter Rea, who's a traveling musician. Last night I was dreaming I was in my SUV, and I was feeling kind of empty because it has no DVD. So I filled it full of fossils from the bosom of the earth, which I burned up by the barrel on my long commute to work, where I worked at what I hated just to keep up with the bills, which I paid to meet the rising costs of feeling unfulfilled, which I felt in every moment, with occasional respite, like the times that I went shopping or watched TV shows at nights. But I'm waking up now. Yeah, I'm waking up. Waking up now from the American dream. Yeah, last night I was dreaming my one eternal hope that my life could be improved if the economy would grow, which already was a monster on a mission to consume, and was eating almost everything and running out of room, and it whispered, "Hey, mister, have we got some products that you need? The standard of your living, it's way too low." And I agreed, so I got myself a credit card. Without a penny down, I took a long ride on the not-so-merry money-go-round. But I'm waking up. I'm waking up now. Oh, yeah, waking up from the American dream. Yeah, the world was like an Emeco, and I said, fill her up with a house, a car, a VCR, a lawn, all that stuff, but I had this nagging notion that enough did not exist. And at the end of every day, I wondered, is this all there is? And someone said, hey man, you already got 10 times more than the rest. 7 billion others want the little that's still left. But hey, it's a free country got snapped, the money's mine to keep, and by the way, who do I pay to take away this garbage? It seemed in the beginning that the dream was so benign. I mean, all I ever wanted was just a little of a pie, some comfort, security, good things for my kids, and okay to please the neighbors. My ego, while I did, but I'll tell you what, it feels much better to be awake and satisfied, seeking out the simple and the deeper things in life, giving back to the world, not hoarding it all for me. So you see, I'm not that anxious to be thrown back asleep. As crazy as it was now, was that a dream or what? Just promise that you'll wake me if I ever start to nod. Put no-dos in my coffee, throw me out in the cold. Just don't ever say, okay now, back to bed you go, because we're all waking up now. We're waking up on the American dream. Yeah, last night I turned off the TV. I went outside and I talked to some real live people out there. We're going to go downtown and get ourselves some organic food at the local restaurant and talk about how we can make changes, not only in our individual lives, but how we can get together with other people in other groups, support each other, and move on. We're waking up. Thank you. I think that song is very clever and it says some of the things that I want to say today. How much time do I have? 1 o'clock? Okay. That gives me, I should warn you that I'm a divergent thinker. And one thought may suddenly veer off into another. And half an hour, it usually takes me about an hour and a half to really unfold what I mean by this. But there's another opportunity, if you're interested in this material, to come to this Colorado Interfaith Power and Light on June 16th. And that's going to be more like a 2 or 2.5 hour stint with David Long. So please join us. I'm really anxious for that one to be well populated. So I usually start out with the idea that I'm David Long and I'm an addict. And I did the dramatic pause because the fact is, it's pretty serious. It's not like an addiction, it really is an addiction. And I think we're addicted to a way of thinking that prevents us from moving on. We're addicted to ideas, for example, that the environment is inside the economy. The technology define human behavior, even though the limits are not strictly speaking technical anymore. They're biological, geological, and anthropological. That people who are paid less are worth less. And that somehow inequality is fair. We've rationalized that one away. We have this huge gap that's making this country very nervous. It's creating status anxiety. And somehow we say, oh, but that's okay because these people worked hard. They deserve to get up there. Even though many of them are going, every day somebody's going to jail who ripped us off. And in terms of people going to jail, it occurs to me that the U.S. economy, again, is not like a Ponzi scheme. It is a Ponzi scheme. We borrow from the future and make payments in the present based on the hope that there will be continued growth. The convenience and reduced physical activities are primary goals. But no effort required. This is America, damn it, and we're going to do it the way we do it, and this is our lifestyle. The growth is always good, but it's okay to destroy natural systems and permanently warp the minds of our children in the name of profit. That is somehow possible to teach other people how not to kill by killing them. That we can use more and more of what we have less and less of, resources, and less of what we have more of, people, and that somehow that will all work out. And that productivity is this miraculous thing. Technology, and in recent years, of course, it's just as much farming the work out to other countries where we can pay them less. But productivity is a miraculous thing in our minds, and we track it religiously, but we're not tracking destructivity, are we? You people know this. You know that there are sufficient ways to track how much we're tearing this thing apart, how many mammals are disappearing every day, how much this climate change thing, how fast it's coming on, and so I'm challenging these assumptions and saying that as much as what we do for the environment, it's important that we think about who we are, because the changes we have to make to support environmental restoration and environmental resurgence and regeneration The changes that we need to make are about the time that we have. They're about the amount of energy that we have. They're about the health that we have. They are about the connection that we can make with other people so we feel grounded and so we feel capable of moving on to the next step. Because the problem is, again, biology, not really technology. And we're biology. We're a living system that needs to fit into these other systems, or else we just can't muster the ability to convince other people, for example, that the environment should be safe. Before I talk my whole amount just on my introduction here, let me move on. We're living in a paradigm that was invented 250 years ago or so, when there were only one-tenth the number of people on the planet, and resources, for all intents and purposes, were infinite. We didn't give it a second thought. Gandhi's quote here is just right on in terms of where I'm going with these thoughts. That yes, we're playing the game expertly, but it's the wrong game. Our software is obsolete. We're operating on that same armored way of thinking that says we could just do whatever we please because there's not very many of us and because resources are boundless. And in my way of thinking, we live in kind of a wicked rich economy, a wicked rich way of thinking, a wicked rich worldview that forces us to destroy our communities, our personal health, and the health of the natural world. The instructions that we consent to, this is an agreement between we munchkins and the wicked rich, in effect direct us to swing wrecking balls against our own homes, wild areas, and places of worship. Why is this okay? It's not. And that's why I'm here to talk about cultural revolution, because that's the only thing that's going to get us where we need to go. Because this is an addiction, I have good news here that we know how to deal with addiction. We intervene. And we admit that we have a problem. That's why the bad news has been so important. My sister's been sort of hounding me for years because as I was growing up, the whole conversation was about my father's work, corporate returns on investment, versus I would talk about the phytoplankton or something, and I was always talking about how the phytoplankton was disappearing, and that was bad news, but I have come to realize that without this, we're not going to go on with this. We're still in the arrogant place where we say, oh no problem, and we're not seeking support, we're not coming down from our arrogant place because it's all good. Now to create a new cultural identity, I'm not talking about the individual anymore. For the last 50 years, we've been asking things like paper or plastic, paper or plastic. It was neither one, and we didn't do it to begin with. We didn't really, we haven't followed through on the 50 simple things. So it's time for us to get beyond what the easy steps that we can take and begin to coalesce, create good anthropology, I call it, biologic. We need to be using the logic of nature to move forward, and it's going to make us feel great. Now, what causes who's willing to set themselves on fire to create this cultural revolution? As we saw in Tunisia, that really mobilized people. That guy's willing to die. And I would say probably nobody in this room is willing to set themselves on fire. But I'm guessing that you being people of the nonprofit world and the environmental movement and so forth, you might have been well willing to make certain sacrifices and changes in your lifestyle, and that's a start. I think the idea that Arab Spring is proceeding is very, very exciting, and that it rubbed off on Wisconsin and so forth. That's the kind of thing we need. We need reasonable outrage, we need empowerment, and we need to realize that there is a problem. Now, in creating change, I drew on the work of Doug McKenzie in the book Fostering Sustainable Behavior. There's really only one way to change, and that is understand what the dysfunction in the existing systems are. That our transportation system, our consumer and production systems, the way we live in our buildings, that it isn't working anymore. And plus, the U.S. is, on a list of 150 countries, the U.S. is in the top 5 in stress. And above us are 2 countries, Iraq and Afghanistan. We are a society that's right on the edge of a pathological society. Now, I know that doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound like I'm being very patriotic, but I am extremely patriotic. I want America to be better. And so perceiving the benefits of new ways of doing it. I'll show you a list in a minute of 9 needs. Again, I'm on anthropology, psychology, in this sociology, in this work. On a list of 9 needs, those needs have always remained the same, but the way we meet the needs always changes. Now that's all we need to do. We really need to stay with the same needs that we have as humans and find different ways of meeting those needs. And then you actually incentivize those things that you want to reward, and you penalize those things that you don't. This is very straightforward. European policy is way ahead of us on this. What we need to do is things like the pay-as-you-throw policy. That's all, when they get time to talk about, where you're actually saying, hey, if you recycle stuff, that's free. But if you're throwing it away, we're going to charge you by the volume. That's if we decide what direction we're going, we can operate on this. We can make things much more like the honeybee does without harming the flower. We can proceed on with the philosophy of Marcus Aurelius of 200 BC, who said that which is not good for the beehive can't be good for the bee. And that's what we need to get beyond, our individualism that says screw the beehive, I'm a bee. Well, we're not just bees, and we need to become less absorbed in this individualism, because it's really hanging us up. So we need to move from me to we. And I wanted to just quickly go over this article that I saw in the New York Times this last Sunday, I think it was. Everybody see the article about how Chicago is beginning to bend to be able to adapt to global warming? They're actually coming up with that, let's admit we have a problem. Let's understand that there are disbenefits in the way we're doing it. And they found out with their climate experts that New Orleans, by 2080, will have 72 days over 90. And they now only have 15. Sounds kind of familiar what's happening in Denver area. They'll have more frequent 100-year storms. They've had 2 100-year storms in the last 3 years. They'll have 35% more precipitation, not necessarily a good thing when it's flooding, but 20% of that precipitation, they'll have 20% less in the summertime. So they're scrapping the state tree. They're planting a lot of trees, but they say the white oak won't be able to make it. So they're going to plant the swamp oak instead. And they're starting to realize that the heat-related deaths could amount to more than 1,000 every year, that increasing freezes and thaws in Chicago could cost billions in road and building repair, and they're moving on. They also realize that termites will now be able to withstand the Chicago winters, and they got a lot of damage there. So they're actually quantifying the benefits of moving on. And they're saying it's cost effective. They're getting into changing the pavements to light reflecting things. They have a real big program on rooftop gardens and so forth in Chicago. And they're using thermal radar to sense where are the real hot spots. And so they're putting rooftop gardens up there. They're also doing things like planting resistant trees. That's saying we don't want that. Now here's a kind of a funny example. I guess I could also add the idea, what are the benefits of buildings that are built right? In the case of homes, for example, a small house has all kinds of benefits. It uses less building materials. Your utility bill is lower. It's more comfy, cozy kind of thing. You don't have to fill it with a bunch of stuff that you really don't need. You're much more particular about what you accumulate. So there's actual benefits to a smaller house, and our cultural adaptation needs to start embracing the unfamiliar and moving to smaller houses, because it's going to be more affordable for the whole economy. But I found it to be kind of interesting. What are the benefits of the high price of gas? And there's quite a little list here. If traffic fatalities in the U.S. would fall if gas prices remained at $4 a gallon. That's 1,000 lives spared every month. Decreased levels of air pollution would spare another 2,000 lives a year. And insurance premiums would fall too, since those who are driving less might qualify for lower car insurance rates. One researcher estimates that a permanent $1 hike in gas prices would cut obesity by 10%, saving billions of dollars a year because people walk and bike more and eat out less. The environmental and social costs of sprawl would stall. There would be more police officers on foot patrols and bicycles. The sales of super efficient cars would continue to climb. To reduce transportation costs, many globalized jobs would come back home. Some employees would be offered 4-day weeks as employers rethink the benefits of heating and cooling buildings less. It cascades. If we begin to embrace the unfamiliar and say that there's the standard procedures for buying, cooking, looking for a job, looking for a house, commuting, designing, investing will be reinvented. All under the same umbrella of this new normal that says, hey, we're going to take responsible now. We're going to take responsibility. We're going to be responsible to each other. We're going to be responsible to support people in church at where we work. We're going to create support groups that can magnify our efforts, and we can insist on things that we never thought we could insist on before. So this is just a shorthand prescription for sustainability. Certainly we know efficiency, sufficiency. For example, renewable energy is going to be plenty if we live a sufficient life. But if we continue to exploit, it's not going to handle it. And then what do we got? We have more coal-fired power plants. We're going to have to talk about offshore drilling more. We're going to talk about the nuclear plants that we really don't feel are that safe anyway. I don't feel they're that safe. The deficiency, minus the deficiency, would be things that are in our GDP and in our minds that are dysfunctional. We fold everything into the GDP. Everything spent in this country is folded into the GDP. And we say, oh, good. It's like a toxic loaf of bread. As long as it rises, everything's fine. But it's not fine. And we really need to subtract those dysfunctions from our way of thinking. And these are what we go after. And if you look at this list, this hit list of unsustainable things, so many of them have directly to do with who we are as people, what our behavioral worldview is. Coal-fired power plants, we need that extra energy because our houses are large, because we're Americans, we expect that power to be there at all times. We don't ever want to have to wear a jacket in our houses or whatever, and yet, coal-fired power plants are going to do us in. Air freight shipping of produce, we want that New Zealand apple now, and we're going to have it. Feedlot, not grass-fed beef, because that's what they tell us we should be eating. And it occurs to me that one message I want to get across here is that our genes are not prepared to deal with the barrage of messages that we get. The way we come to believe something is if something is repeated over and over again. And to have 2.5 billion people on the planet watching at least 3 hours of TV every day, that is pathological. Because there's things that we could be doing out there that are real, So suburbs without stores, we want privacy. We want the suburbs to be just so. Communities without recycling, we don't really take the responsibility to step forward. I wish Jacob was here because he's the mayor of Golden where I live. And I take some pride in the idea that I did propose pay-as-you-throw recycling in Golden, and the city council adopted it. So I felt like, okay, we're empowered. We can go forward and make some recommendations. 30 million acres of lawn. I remember reading yesterday that we could water 30 million acres of lawn for the same amount of water that we can have 81 million acres of organic gardens. So what is it about the English garden, especially in the West? That is a behavioral or cultural thing. Nutrition-free processed food, it's fast, we don't have time to actually prepare anything else. On this cultural line of thinking, probably one of the most important and powerful things we could do would be to learn 5 new recipes every year. It would be meat-free. 1 meal a week could be gourmet something, eggplant parmesan or whatever. that takes us away from this huge impact of feedlot beef and pork. Many of these things are cultural, and the idea that our economy needs to grow is patently absurd. You know, it doesn't need to grow; it needs to develop. And if we would use three tools: prevention, precision, and participation, in a heftier way, we could have a more affordable economy that we don't need to grow. Again, it's not destroy nature, make a profit. It's restore nature, rebuild culture, because they actually provide the value that's beyond money. The thing about this, the whole dismissal of culture is that it's so difficult to sell culture. You know, culture is actually what saves us money. I guess I don't have that piece with me, but when you think about the role of culture, what it does, it's supposed to have a moderating effect on us, and it doesn't right now because the culture itself is pathological. We're looking for guidance to a culture that's deranged and only has one mission, and that is move forward and just keep making more. Remember the Jay Leno commercial for Doritos? Crunch all you want and make more. And that's kind of the way we're thinking. Here, I do think that the conversion of shame into pride is one of the most important human motivators. And if we look with shame on this list of us compared to 14 EU countries, we begin to see that moment, that 9/11 moment, we should have made some changes there based on the idea that we can do better and that we're going to move from this down thing that we're in to something we feel really proud of. And so in all these things that are so important, EU countries come out ahead of us. And in the annual happiness polls, Finland, Sweden, Denmark are at the top. U.S. is 17th or 18th. U.S. is consumes 2/3 of the world's antidepressants. My point is, let's be done with it, but let's not be done with it until we get to the place where we can say, I see, we really need to get all this stuff out of our lives. And as you know, the footprint of a U.S. Citizen is 30 acres. Family of 3 then is using 75 football fields or more, pushing 90 football fields of stuff, just for our gratification, just for our cultural expectations. And this is us at the mall, and it might as well be this because it's enough to see. This is me if I were a female trying to get into a package that could kill me, because if I have a pair of scissors, I could be the headline that says Golden Man kills himself opening a packet. I'm just trying to point out the absurdity here, and this sort of underscores it. You remember how the pharaohs used to bury themselves, be buried with all their stuff, just in case they needed it in the afterlife. Well, the funeral directors are reporting that this is what we want to be buried with, our cell phone. More and more people are saying, let me have that iPhone or whatever, because I don't know, I just want to go to the afterlife with it, And so you hear that ringtone as the casket's going down, and I'm sorry, I can't take the call right now. So there's other things that we can worship besides this stuff, and maybe if I run out of time, I want to underscore this one, that the most important way, and the quickest way to save the environment is to start thinking about what success really means. Dennis Kucinich, representative from Ohio, talks about how, yes, we do need stars. That's a human trait. We want recognition. We want to feel valuable. We want to feel like we're doing something, creating a life that has some worth to it. But that doesn't have to be based on material stuff. The material stuff is really just symbols to get to the more important thing. I'll get your attention now. This is it. This is what we're after. This is why we work 100,000 hours per lifetime. To get these things, which appear to be abstract, but let me go a little further here. This is all we really want. This isn't about Republicans or Democrats. This is about healthy, low-stress lives with a lot of leisure, happy kids, real security in our neighborhoods. Let's get rid of crime by learning how to trust each other. An environment with a stable immune system such that we're not going to have to pay a lot of money if we restore nature because it has its own value. It's been said that if we repaired wetlands along the Mississippi I think it's a lot, 13 million acres. That reparation of the wetlands along the Mississippi would cost less than the 1993 flood. And I don't think that the current flood was as radical as that one, but the fact is nature has these values that we really need to be restoring that if we want an economy that's affordable for all of us. We need to be preventing disease rather than treating it. And we really need to be looking at living lives that are rich because of the real wealth of time affluence, social connections, connection with nature, being in touch with our own health. Those are like cornerstones, and this too. This is kind of lacking. We're skimming along the surface of life as Americans, typically. Many of you are not, and I don't think I am, but the fact is, it kind of reminds me of the scuba diver who says, "Well, I don't see any fish. I don't see any bright colors or anything." We're not swimming where the fish are. We're not swimming to the coral reefs that are, fertile with meaning and purpose. This always comes out backwards. It's not on my machine. For some reason, the projector turns it around. But we don't have to think that we're out there and have nothing to base our decisions on. There's a new metrics now. It used to be that for 1 barrel of oil spent, we'd get 100 barrels of oil back. Now, we spend a barrel of oil and we're only getting 10 back. So we're only 1/10 as productive with our oil, and as you know, we're up in the Arctic now, and we're in the Gulf and off the shore of Brazil and so forth, drilling and drilling and drilling. But it's about how much energy we spend to get the energy. Now, in this case, we're pretty much trained in thinking about recycling this and moving the can. That's great. That'll save 95% of the energy. But it's not as good as this if this were used 5 or 6, 7 times. And the difference is thermodynamics. It costs a lot of energy to melt this aluminum down at 2,000 degrees or something, whereas this, if we're careful with it, if we had a bottle bill like 12 other states do, and I know it's come up a bunch of different times in Colorado, but we need to insist on that. This is stupid not to be reusing that glass bottle, and the Europeans are even using plastic bottles. So, I mean, these are the types of things where we need to insist on it. There's no real debate here if one is more energy efficient by a long shot. Durable products. What's the matter with it? This is my mother's featherweight sewing machine from 55 years ago. That's the kind of product we want. This is the car that's out in the Union Station parking lot over there, my 1986 Volvo. And I wanted to bring it up because it has a direct connection to that list of 9 things there, 9 needs. Security and creativity and freedom and so forth. Now, year after year, this Volvo has been proven to be a very safe vehicle. I feel very secure with this vehicle because nobody's going to steal it. I did lock the door, but I probably didn't have to over there. It's the kind of car that suits my needs right now because I only drive about 5,000 miles a year. And I really can't afford a Prius or whatever. I'll stretch maybe to get the plug-in that's coming along. Toyota is just really blowing my mind with what their research is about. The fuel cell car too is coming. So I'll look at it. But in the meantime, I can put I'm a gardener and an orchard tender, and I can put all my trees in the back here and not have to worry too much about the dirt on the carpet or whatever. It gives me a certain sense of freedom also on that list because I feel like, all right, you are a nerd, so just go with it. I don't care what people think about me, but I'm making a stand here that I really don't care what they think about my car. So that's a certain there's freedom there, and I really think that our lifestyle could be moving towards the strategy of the backpacker, where you don't want a lot of stuff, you just want the best stuff. So fewer things but better will guide America in the right direction. We want quality. Yeah, we should be spending more for certain things, one of which is food. We used to spend as much as 30% of our household budget on food. Now we're down to 12%. And so there's a converse relationship between our health and the amount that we spend on food because we have the cheapest food in the world as a percentage of our income and the most expensive healthcare. So there's a direct connection there, and I, for one, spend most of my discretionary money on food. I wrote a little blog that maybe some of you have seen about this. because this is one concrete proof that we are addicted. This is the reward center of the brain, with the compass. And that is set up very ingeniously to tell us which ways, what choices we should make. But again, because of this barrage of information, and the repetition and the speed and the sexiness and the colors and everything else, our reward center can't really tell us anymore. It sees sugar, sugar frosted flakes, all the sugar, yeah, energy, good. It sees promiscuity and it says, okay, sex is going to perpetuate the species. Happy faces, maybe that could be me. It's this whole tugging at our genes. And it occurs to me that those counterfeit rewards, and by the way, this drugs us. This is self-induced addiction, because when we see something that rings our pinball machine, it releases dopamine into our body. So this is actually that is part of our addiction right there. And I don't think we'll be able to move beyond this addiction. I don't think we'll be able to save the planet until we can learn to separate and make a distinction between these counterfeit values, the ones that really don't serve us, don't serve the greatest good for the greatest number of people, and move along to natural rhythms again. And again, every time I say something about, go back to the whatever, there's a cultural thing too. There's a little bit of don't ever go back. But I'm thinking of it more in terms of a set point on a furnace system. It's a cybernetic set point where we've strayed off the path, and it's not going back, but it's going, going up to the set point. Our set point should be based on the human's need anthropologically, in my mind, and that's where I haven't set myself on fire, but I have spent 15 or 20 years living at a slightly lower income level and trying to sell these ideas. This is, we're all familiar with this guy, isn't he, the guy who ate burgers for a month or something. So again, if we can learn to eat lower on the food chain, we have to start folding in other values besides just our health and besides some abstract environmental good. Grass-fed beef, obviously cattle can eat grass and we can't. We can eat grain and they can't. So it's anthropologically correct. Our intestine is more like a deer than a tiger. We're omnivores, not carnivores, and yet we eat, 230 pounds of meat every year. Let me make sure I include this. Does anybody know Judy Wicks' name? She has been a real force in the Business Alliance for Local Self-Reliance, I think it is, at Bali, B-A-L-L-E. And for 26 years, restaurateur Judy Wicks poured her energy into the White Dog Cafe in Philadelphia. Though the restaurant started and remained relatively small, there have been many other ways that Wicks has measured growth. Increasing knowledge, expanding consciousness, developing creativity, deepening relationships, increasing happiness and well-being, and having fun. Money is simply a tool, she emphasizes. Business should really be about relationships. With everyone we buy from and sell to, everyone we work with, and with the earth itself. Wicks made a conscious decision to stay small, to be one special restaurant rather than a chain. I love this. She hung a sign in her closet that she'd see every morning. Good morning, beautiful business. The sign reminded her of the farmers who were already out in the fields picking fresh organic fruits and vegetables, and the pigs, cows, chickens that were out in the pastures enjoying the morning sun and fresh air. In doing a documentary on sustainable agriculture, I came across these pigs who were out in the sunshine living in little dog houses rather than crowded together. And the farmer was just so proud of the health. He fed them probiotics, like a yogurt and stuff. And he said, my pigs are healthy. And it kind of reminds me of that. And Judy Wicks would think of Dougie, the goat herder, who claimed that when she kissed her goat's ears, it made their cheese taste better. I actually scratched that out from usually reading it, but it is. I mean, it's an extreme that, really, it's about who we are. She would think of the restaurant's bakers coming in early in the morning to put cakes and pies in the oven. She'd even remember the Zapatista Indians down in Chiapas, Mexico, growing the organic fair trade coffee beans that made her restaurant so fragrant every morning. how I can summarize some of the stuff I want to say here. To combat global warming, agriculture is as big of an impact as energy is. When you fold in not only the livestock, 18 billion livestock on the planet, when you fold in how they're being fed very energy-intensive corn and grains and so forth, when you fold in the idea that the refrigerator is a bit higher energy user than the tractor, the whole processing of food and everything, it's more than a third. And so we really need to find debate points on the idea that if we want to take carbon back out of the air that we've taken out of the ground, let's put it back in the soil. And that's got to be organic, can very readily be organic food. Because to put carbon back into the soil is the way organic growers do it. We keep carbon in the soil. And we talk about reforesting the planet and doing this kind of rotational grazing. First they're grazing over here like bison. Now they're released into this half, and they're doing what they love to do, which is sit there and chew on their cubs. And putting diversity back into our farms, certainly where we live, enables us to have these forms of real wealth that don't require that we work so hard to keep up. This whole idea of keeping up. All the conditions that are rampant in our modern life pit the individual against the group, because we're trying so to keep up that we have to compete with the other person rather than work with them. And that results in an epidemic of depression because of what Jim Rubin calls social defeat. This gap between rich and poor is making us sick. And what the stress anxiety does to us affects quite a long list here. Mortality rates, low birth weight, obesity, heart disease, lung disease, incidence of smoking, asthma, cancer, diabetes, number of sick days taken on the job, accident rates, suicide, and it goes on. This is the world as it's currently paced and patterned is making us sick. So then we have to rely on other things to try and fill that void. Here's my neighborhood, I want to invite any of you to come out to Golden, to Harmony Village. It's not at all perfect. It's a nice place to live, and I've decided to live here for the duration, but it has these amenities like a community building that enables us to have smaller houses. A guest room is in the community building. We can have parties in the common house here, enables us to have smaller houses and be able to still have a high quality of life. Here's my kind of favorite place, the Harmony Community Garden. And we're now producing, I guess, $3,000 worth of produce or something. Here's my front yard with strawberries rather than grass. And there really isn't that much of a yield in this yard because either the birds get them or the kids sneak in and steal the strawberries. And that really is my yield. That's, as a gardener of 30 years, 15 years ago, I would have said, you kids get out of here, those are my strawberries. And now it's the kids, I look out the kitchen window and I see this out there. And how can you improve on that? So in terms of, and I've already gone over this somewhat, anybody's neighborhood can begin to work toward that level of integration and interrelationship. You might be able to work with the city and close down a street and have remote parking, which I'm wildly in favor of because it keeps the cars out of where the kids are trying to play. It keeps the noise out of the neighborhood, and it enables me to meet people on my way back home, kind of thing. And so I wrote a book called Superbia with Dan Chiris, and I'm convinced that people could work together on eco teams in their own neighborhood. They could begin to say, we want to have a fuel cell right here to produce fuel and produce electricity in our neighborhood. We want to have compost toilets. We want to have all the things that are in this building, the dual flush toilets. We're going to make our homes the best they can be, and we're going to have a sense of community. The counter to corporation is cooperation and community. And I think we can find a way to do a better job of the way we live, if in fact we are able to give ourselves a job that we cherish. We've just given ourselves 5 days a week. It's very interesting that the experiment that Kellogg did from 1935, Depression years, to 1985, I think it was, they went to a 30-hour work week by cutting 2 hours a day off. And everyone in that town of Battle Creek or Kalamazoo, Michigan, learned that it was more important that they think about what to do with their time rather than their money. Because with those 2 extra hours, they could be a lot healthier. They could go work out, or they could go be room mothers in their kids' school, or go populate the YMCA and really lead lives that were much higher quality. And those employees were radically disappointed when it was taken away, because the 30-hour work week enabled them to live a richer life. And it occurs to me that I really, as a radical thinker or out-of-the-box thinker, I'm wondering why more people are not thinking about our current predicament and saying, why don't we have full-time employment? Everybody works, a part-time workforce. Why don't we be looking at a shorter work week? And if that sounds impossible, then why do 40% of all Dutch people work part-time with commensurate pay? In other words, throughout the EU, 15 or 20 different countries have said, if you're a part-time worker, you will not be paid less. So again, I guess I should wrap it up here, but I want to close with the idea that there is a lot to be proud of, and I'm really loving the idea that Colorado will soon, very shortly, meet its 30% renewable energy goal, probably within about 10 or 15 years, certainly at most. We're doing it, and we really pioneered in this state. And renewable energy at large now provides 8% of the U.S. energy budget. That includes hydro. That powers 8 million American homes and is equivalent to taking 9 million cars off the road. So when we think that nothing's happening, not true. I just did a slideshow on what the military is doing in renewable energy on what they call net zero. They're going towards each base having all the energy that they use produced either on the base or adjacent to it. So I feel very excited, but I still feel like it's moving a little slowly. And who was here to hear Maurice talk on biomimicry? A few of you. Let me just summarize and kind of wrap up here. Nature provides all the answers to any questions we would ask. And really, like I said, why exclude ourselves from nature? We're in nature and of nature, and we need to be in sync with it, or else we're doomed. People ask me, am I an optimist or a pessimist? And I say, well, I'm pretty pessimistic about the way things are going right now. But I know we can change. We always have. Humans have always changed. And one of the basic changes we need to make is to incorporate ourselves into the way nature works. Who can tell me what this is? Velcro, yeah. And a Swiss guy was out on in his great backyard kind of thing with his dog and saw how it worked, and came back and invented something that's great stuff. And by seeing how peacocks and Morphos butterflies create pigment without dyes, they use transparent layers to refract light. We learn how to make our world more colorful naturally. The abalone shell self-assembled layer by layer without any waste. Selecting minerals from the Paladin seawater rather than extracting them and tearing everything up. It sits there and waits for the minerals to come to it. We can learn how nature lubricates, communicates, recycles materials, purifies water, weaves silk, muffles sound, reduces friction, repels microbes, and heals itself. So I think in summation here, embracing the unfamiliar is a really important thing, and that has to do with our sense of self-groundedness. That we feel that we are strong enough to stick our necks out as individuals and create a culture that that makes more sense. That's where we can make a change, because it happens just like when a school of fish is swimming this way and then they're turning around this way. Paradigm shift, I think, is the quickest way to make the big changes. All of a sudden, we change the way we do it, and it's an agreement we have to make, because we haven't been paying attention to this. I think we need to talk more about looking at the unfamiliar and saying, well, we're all doing it now, like we did in World War II. yeah, it's different, but now this is the way we do it now. And I know a lot of you bike to work and, are doing the things that you should be doing, and just keep doing it in a very low-key and unpreachy way, and pretty soon, the whole thing is going to shift. There's already 60 million Americans who are cultural creatives, and that's enough. I mean, really, the rest will follow along. If we, 60 million, make a big enough and persuasive enough case, we'll get to a more sensible way of living by telling and retelling a story that promotes a joyfully moderate, less stressful, sustainable lifestyle. That's what we can have in exchange for all the waste and pollution and stress. We can have a better quality of life. We'll build a new civilization the way we built the current one, with incentives, social rewards, changing styles and designs, new kinds of technologies, and new ways of meeting our needs. Same needs, new ways of meeting them. It's time for a cultural revolution. I call it a social tsunami. We see that it can happen. We know it can happen. Let's hope that we have the vitality and the courage to participate in the movement of consumer disobedience that demands quality over quantity. Localization rather than just globalization. We want to take care of our place. We want to take care. We're humans. We take care of stuff. Time affluence rather than the poverty of constant stressful deadlines. Less aggression, more empathy, more respect for public spaces, including the environment. I mean, that environment is our public space. It's a shared responsibility. It's not something that just the EPA does. We all need to do it. Including the environment, and less obsession with individual ambition and accumulation. So when the me becomes we, and it is happening. That's when we're gonna really protect the environment. There is a poem that I love, Gary Snyder, who says, in the next century, or the one beyond that, they say, are valleys, pastures. We can meet there in peace if we make it. Climb these coming crests. One word to you and your children. Stay together. Learn the flowers. Go light. So thanks for coming and listening.